Now, they do say, do they not, there are two certainties in life. We've already debated one of them, taxes. Now it's time for the other. Death comes to us all in the end, and it's breaking news there, but some people have it much harder than others. They must face the fact they're dying for months, perhaps years. There's a documentary on this tomorrow night on BBC Two called A Time to Live. This shows people who found a new intensity and joy in living, despite perhaps because their days were numbered. Academic research suggests facing death is easier for atheists and for the very religious, which is interesting. Is death easier if you believe in God? Well, Dr. Elaine Sugden, good morning, Elaine.
Morning.
Hello. Co-author of Talking About Dying, which is a difficult thing to do, but very important, of course. This is interesting. People with strong faith and atheists have the fewest problems. Why would that be?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing to say is you're absolutely right. Death is a great equaliser. We're all going to die. Like it or not, we try and put it off. And doctors try and put it off quite rightly. Life is good. We want as much of it as we can, but within limits. We get onto the quality of life stuff. We don't want it to be prolonged so long. And people kept alive in frailty and in a way that is just not compatible with good life. But to come on to the question of faith, I think that's quite right. I think faith is belief. If you firmly believe that God is there and in control and that he's got something for you after this life, or if you firmly believe that, as an atheist, that there is no God and that this life is the end, then I think those people who firmly believe can face death probably with more equanimity. I haven't faced death, so it's quite difficult to say that will be the case for me, but I hope it would be. But I do know people, mainly I think because I'm a Christian, who are firmly believing Christians, Bible-believing Christians who have put their trust into the form of God that appeared on earth in Jesus Christ, and firmly believe that there is another life. We don't know. We believe it's good after this one.
Are people worried that it's not going to be good, do you think? Do you think there are those who are worried about judgment?
I think maybe these are the people in between, the people who don't know. I think there must always go through your mind, what if? Maybe through my mind, what if there isn't? Well, that's fine. I wouldn't mind if this was
So
the
what
end.
if there is, and I'm separated one way or another from those that I love as well? Separation on earth, because you never see them again, but also the concern that in judgment you may not see each other.
Well, yes, you mentioned judgment, and the Bible clearly talks about a time of judgment after death, when we are going to be judged for not necessarily just what we've done in this life, but whether we have committed, whether we believe in God and whether we've committed
to Jesus Christ.
Our lives to Jesus Christ. And therefore, as he says, you know, after that, with forgiveness and reconciliation with God, and to live with him forever.
Okay.
We don't know quite what that means.
No, a lot of people, of course, across the globe have not committed themselves to Jesus Christ. I think you have, Jacqueline, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me just tell everyone, you're a palliative cancer care patient. Thank you for coming in. What are your thoughts on facing death, and where do you get your strength from?
I've been a lifelong Catholic, and in that time I've ignored God, I've rejected him, and I've taken him for granted. Over the years, my experience has been that he's loved me more and more and enriched my life more and more. For many years I've been carried on a blanket of love and prayer by a lot of people, many of whom I don't know. In September 2014, I became very ill. And it turned out I had an unusual ovarian cancer, which had tangled itself with my bowel and stuck itself to my bladder. and because everything was blocked up, I was in imminent danger of death. I reached the point of being in imminent danger of death about half a dozen times over the last 2 years and 9 months, and it's quite a scary place to go. But that blanket of love and prayer strengthened and uplifted me in the darkest times. Far from being afraid of dying, at those times when it became most imminent, I felt a joy and almost an eagerness to go. That was mitigated by the sadness of leaving those that I loved, because I knew they'd be cared for. I am convinced that there is a God, a great, good, powerful God who loves us beyond all telling, loves every one of us. And nothing can separate us from that love. But we have free will. We can choose to reject that love.
Can I ask you, do you think some of the atheists in the audience or watching at home are in for a pleasant surprise?
If I'm totally wrong, and there is nothing but an endless sleep beyond death, then I would be happy with that. There have been times in my life when I would have committed suicide if I'd thought that.
Yes,
Simply to get to that.
Not existing, just like we didn't exist before we were born.
There would be no pain and suffering, no injustice, and no war. If I'm right, all the people who do not believe in God, and that's a gift. Faith is a gift from God. It's not something we choose. We can ask for it, we can pray for it, but it is a free gift. But for those who have no faith, I hope they're going to get a wonderful surprise.
Thank you, Laura. Now, see, Stephen, you blog as the godless spell checker. Mm-hmm. Maybe when you're lying there and the clock is ticking, you will be the godly spell checker.
Well,
that was inspiring.
Yes, thanks for calling on me to follow on that. But it's possible. Death makes you behave in irrational ways, or certainly the fear of the death. It wouldn't necessarily indicate that there was any truth in the claims. But when you ask, if God makes death easier, we're asking this because God's linked to the afterlife. And really, I don't really think you're facing death in that sense. You're sort of pretending it's not happening. You're pretending, the lights go off and you reawaken and you can speak to grandma and play with your childhood pets. And I just think if you know there's an end point and which, sorry to be pessimistic, you're facing oblivion, I think it might focus your mind a bit more. You might put your interest in things whilst you've still got time that you want to get out the way and signed off.
Naomi?
I think you do that anyway because of separation between this life and afterlife. Death teaches you about life. Death teaches you to live. It's very different, death
what if you've approached
life.
death and you start having a crisis of faith whilst you're on your death and you start wondering whether I've wasted my life following
But
the
there's
rules
nothing
and
wrong with
regulations.
that. We do take stock when big things happen, be it sad like death, or be it a marriage, or be it a birth. We take life as what should we do now? It's a good thing. That is a positive about death. It's not a sad thing.
But it's surely better to do that sooner rather than later.
But not everyone has the maturity or wakes up to that. So when we do, it's never too late.
Jacqueline, I saw your hand up.
On one particular occasion, I was so close to death that the chief surgeon stood at the bottom of my bed at 12:30 at night and said to my daughter, if she survives till morning, we will operate at 7 o'clock. When you are that close to death, your mind is very focused and you are not being deluded or distracted by other things. You are simply looking at the matter of death. When you survive something like that, life becomes very, very precious and you want to make the absolute best of it. But make no mistake, death is a scary place to go and very often is accompanied by intense pain. I have seen several people die over my lifetime. Several of those deaths were quiet, peaceful and of great consolation. 2 at least were horrendous. I firmly believe that either a conviction of no faith at all or an absolute conviction of the love of God gives great strength at the moment of death.
Let me ask, right in front of you is Carrie from the British Humanist Association, who's a pastoral care trainer. Have you, do you think there is a default position from some that you need to have a kind of deathbed conversion to Christian? Have you seen that? Have you seen people in that situation who have you know, been given prayers or offered sacraments who really did not want that?
I have seen it, and that, I think, you know, I totally respect where you're coming from. Those, I think if people have had faith in their life, they'll still have faith at their death. Those of us who believe this is the one life we have will be working through our lives to make sure we fulfill it to the fullest we can to lead a good life, and that death is just a conclusion of that and we end. Where I found it difficult is when I have seen faith brought to people as if it's something they should have to have a conversion, where it can be at the best irrelevant, but at worst very intrusive and really quite offensive when someone has actually got their own belief system, like I certainly have, that this is my life and I want to live it to the fullest and to help people, and that I will end my life in this way as well. That, and my reflections will be upon what I hope will be a life well spent.
In a second, Pfizer.
Yeah, I just wanted to reflect on this. My mother sadly passed away a few months ago, and she was of the Muslim faith, and I think it did really help her faith. That she came close to death several times, and I think it did give her strength in those times. But I think there's something interesting as well for those of us that are dealing with people that die and how faith helps in those times. And I really am jealous of those that definitely believe she's in heaven and definitely believe. And I have a lot of questions about those things, and I think it's probably easier thinking that they're like when you know it, when you really believe it, that they are somewhere better, then I'm sure it does help. I mean, how can it not help?
Yeah.
I agree.
Angela.
And you're right. I mean, my mum passed away a few years ago, and when I sort of think about her and look to her for guidance, I look up, because the idea is I don't look down. I look to a place where I think she'll be in some kind of...
But her memories survive.
Her memories surround me, and I suffuse my children with, with her wisdom. I repeat the things that she said to me. I want them to be inspired, the things that she did. Look, the upshot is, we have no... I'm Jewish. I have a very firm belief in God. You know, the Jewish view is that this world is almost a waiting room for the world to come. That's not to say all the things that you say aren't true, that we should live a fulfilling life, be good and be kind for being in the moment, but also that there may be something in the world to come as well that will reflect that. But there is no proof. None of us can say one way or another whether the lady, you know, who spoke so beautifully and courageously there is right, or whether you're right. But faith and proof are mutually exclusive. So we have to follow what's in our heart and the tenets of our faith. And I couldn't survive without my Jewish faith because of that.
Yeah, the undiscovered country. Blue shirt. Hi there.
Hi. I think, you know, not to be disrespectful, but the lady over there said it's not a delusion. But frankly, it is a delusion, because, I'm sorry, but, I mean, to think that the absence of life in your body means that you're going to go off into some other world and live there, it can't be proven. And just because it can't be disproven either doesn't mean we should believe it. But also, what the lady was just saying then was, you know, you have this expectation in faith that you're going somewhere else. And I think it was Richard Dawkins who said that this allows people to sort of, oh, well, this life doesn't really matter, and therefore, you know, we don't have to care about the environment, we don't have to care about these things, when really we should protect our planet.
But I didn't say that. I said we should care about it in the moment as well. I know you didn't
specifically say that, but their argument is made.
Well, there's some people of that opinion, but many people of faith would say that, of course, we have to care for the planet, of course we have to care, for each other.
It's absolutely the opposite.
Elaine, hang on one second, allow me to come to Elaine.
I mean, people of faith generally do care enormously about people in this society, so that's one.
What if you do not have, can I ask you, sorry Elaine, what if you do not have Jesus Christ, you've not found Jesus Christ, should you be worried?
Well, I think that's something isn't it, for us all to consider. What is our faith? What does it mean? Who is God? I think we need to look into that. We're all intelligent people and we can do that. And the Christian faith is simple. But I think also we're missing something here, because we need to be looking. We've started talking about people who've died and people's memories and whether it's a good death and whether there's pain. A lot of our book was really about talking about dying. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about faith, yes, but we also need to talk about people's fulfillment of their life. They might be going to die at 45. But have they fulfilled their life? What have they done? Can they look back and feel good about their life? Have they finished it? What about, have they had all the medicine they should have? Is it time to say...
Is everyone going to be okay that one leaves behind as well?
People worry about
that. That's my father was worried about that.
Absolutely.
And his last words were, I said, I love you, Dad. He said, and I love all of you.
Yeah. And, I mean, I had a patient who died in her 40s, and she made sure that her child and her husband could run the house on their own. They did nothing before. She put all her energies of the rest of her life into that. We need to biggin it out. We need to talk about it. People shut off. Very rarely do people talk about death. We need to think about what we'd want if we were facing death. Would we want to be resuscitated? Would we want to be kept alive if we had a bad stroke? This sort of thing. And we can do that. It's all in place for us to do that. And yes, faith is definitely one part of it. As a Christian, it's an enormous
and would
part
we
of
want
my
to
life.
be, and should we have the ability to be, and the law to be in place to allow us to slip away, is another huge debate, which, with 20 seconds of the programme left, we really do not have time to go into. But on another occasion, we will, and on previous occasions, we have. Thank you for your brilliant contribution, Jacqueline. Thank you all very much indeed. Debates continue on Twitter. See you from Salford again next week. Thanks for watching.